14.9 is the most disappointing patch I've played in a long time. The meta and problems in the last patch are completely unaddressed, and now they'll also be adding in 20 new artifacts into the mix to make matters worse. For example, these Lissandra and Kayn nerfs are nowhere near enough, and these units will still be extremely powerful at what they do. Riot also completely failed to address the issue with 3-cost reroll, and this will be another patch where you avoid it completely. I've played this patch for the past 2 weeks on PvE, and with the meta not really changing, Lissandra still being OP, and with all the bugs for the new and the existing items, I've really come to hate this patch. And for those of you that didn't like the current patch, I'll be the bearer of bad news here and say that while the new artifacts will be fun to play around initially, I think a very sharp meta will form around them like it already has on the PvE and make them super unfun. I mean, if you ever catch me live, I'm probably on the PvE. And the PvE streams the past week or two have been quite painful, honestly. But let's talk about some of the other changes as well. So are there any meta changes this patch? Well, with the buffs to Kayle, Zoe and Riven, I expect a Story Weaver opener to be even stronger this patch, and with the Riven buff, Riven Reroll should now be solidified. If you're curious on how to play Riven Reroll, then I'll link a Reddit guide in the description. Similarly, with the buffs to Alune and Umbral, you'll likely see a lot of Umbral Alune, especially with the Spatula being craftable. But again, with 3-cost reroll being dead, you won't really see people playing around Alune 3, but rather using Alune to fast 9 for Azir and Hui. There's also another Reddit guide on how to play Invoker Alune, which I'll also put in the description. But will the Heavenly Rework change anything about Lee Sin or Kayn? Honestly, it definitely is weaker, but not really. Kayn is still a complete monster, and again his nerf is kinda negligible. And in fact, Heavenly Kayn is stronger if you give him the Heavenly Spatula. But don't worry, Lissandra still exists with her 5 years of CC to counter melee comps insanely hard. Lissandra is still by far the strongest 5-cost in the game. But I do suspect a new addition to the meta could be the return of Tristana, especially considering how insane her AD buff in this patch is and the buff to Duelist. Tristana now has amazing AD scaling and can one-shot everything if she has IE and DB. But Volibear still isn't great, and most importantly, 3-cost reroll still feels so bad. But honestly, that's it. Those are the only possible changes, which is again, practically nothing, and arguably makes the current meta considerably worse. I mean, with the level odds nerf at level 8, 3-star 4-costs are a lot less common now, however this change makes TFT feel so weird. For example, if you're playing something like 6 Umbral Alune and you want to reroll, you do it at level 8, because you can more reliably hit Yorick 3, Alune 3 and Yone 3 along Silas 2 and Set. That is just so weird. The identity of level 7 and level 8 just feels so vague in set 11, and genuinely I find it so confusing as a player. And I also want to talk about the new artifacts in this patch. I won't go into detail about how you play around these artifacts just yet, that's for the next video, but what I want to talk about is how I'm worried about the state of this patch with the new artifacts. The current patch is already pretty bad and they're not really changing much balance wise, and now they're throwing in all these new artifacts into the mix. Initially I was excited about these new items because they could be so diverse and transformative, but now after realizing how narrow some of these artifacts can be, I'm thinking otherwise. On the PvE, there already formed a meta around these artifacts, which is rare but obvious since some are so oppressive. Especially if someone hits an Exodia combination of artifacts like Double Talisman, you can't do anything about it. These combinations and situations are super rare and out of reach, which makes high rolling them even more of a pain point to play against. The more that I think about it, maybe they should have released 5 or 10 at a time and not 20. 20 at once is bound to cause issues like it already has on the PvE, and so I'm certain there will be more problems when they go live. While I've had my fun, I hope these artifacts don't launch in a solved state, but I'm afraid they may. And that's not including the numerous bugs with these artifacts that make them feel completely bonkers. Hopefully these bugs get fixed ASAP, but once Leduc drops his video detailing each and every one of them, I expect this patch to become a dumpster fire. There's also a lot of augment changes, but again, for the most part, not much will really change. But I will say that Accomplice Gloves feels godly in this patch due to some of the new support items. It genuinely feels like you can never low roll with this augment anymore, and so I'm kinda glad they're nerfing it slightly. But overall, I am not looking forward to this patch. I think it'll be a complete mayhem for players, and I pray that no competitive tournaments are held on this patch. That would just be so unfair. But yeah, I will end the video on that note, and I'll pass over the questions to you guys. What are your thoughts on this patch? Do you reckon you'll hate it as much as I do? Will you even play it? And will the new artifacts be great or completely awful? Let me know in the comments, and remember to subscribe. Anyway, check out these other videos if you want to see more from me, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.